We're excited to talk through the second iteration of our content marketing trends report. This is a strategy and process we work with our clients, and now we're in that second version of it, which is essentially a sample of many content marketers that are likely listening to this call, hearing about what's new and interesting and changing about our evolving industry, our rapidly evolving industry. Today, or this year, we're happy to partner with Winter, which is a B2B insights company, great for getting information about your positioning and website and all those good things from your buyer persona. And we got responses there specifically from SEOs and other content marketing leadership, in addition to our own audience to build out the data that we'll be talking through today. And definitely go to our website, go to our Learn Center. You should see that featured front and center to get all the core insights. But Drew, what was one of the first kind of data points that the survey revealed?
The first data point that I'm into is that content marketing is not dead, and that's good for job security for all of us listening, probably. But it's interesting to see the chart compared to 2023 that when we pulled last time, that it's almost like the middle spending brackets are seeing an increase from last year, but the low and high end are kind of diminished. So what that means is more people are spending in the 5 to 45 range. What are you seeing?
Yeah, agreed. It is worth noting up front, we sampled around 300 people, and the 45K range in both years was, of course, generally the smallest sample. So it could be a sample size bias that even one or two responses could swing that. But it does make general sense. I think total budgets were a little smaller this year, but maybe is also saying people aren't giving up on content marketing. So maybe that's what it is like most people's net marketing budget did compress if it's not a sample size problem.
Yeah, people are trying to be more efficient in this environmental, like in this economic environment. So it makes sense to me that like those budgets are going to be pushed in the middle, and it's unachievable. And maybe it ties into a later data point about performance in the sense that it's not likely to be value additive at that under $5,000 per month range.
Yeah, agreed. You're probably not going to see much success. And I think our data fleshed that out when we asked people what range made you feel more successful. Naturally, there was a correlation with spending more on average as well. Like one of the data points that's worth pulling in as well. On average, majority of people spent in the $500 to $1,000 range on content. But of course, people that spend more per asset reported higher success on average. So there's a natural correlation. Of course, you can't just spend an extra dollar and expect to get more out of the coin machine. But it does, of course, generally connect to performance, the better quality is.
Well, it wouldn't be a podcast in 2024 if we didn't talk about AI. So what are we seeing on that front?
Yeah, I think an interesting thing ties directly to our previous point. Naturally, the anxiety and the joke you made, Drew, maybe not a joke, some of its good jokes are rooted in real feelings, is that use of AI would connect to less spending in content and SEO potentially. Clearly, there's no correlation yet between those two things. AI use is up year over year. Last year, we reported 63% of people were using AI in some form, or 64 rather. This year, it's 83%. So we're seeing a jump, but still seeing content budgets increase and spend per asset increase. That's showing that most people are kind of using it around the edges of their performance, and hopefully for now, not directly impacting headcount, or at least that's what the data is showing.
Yeah, it's also interesting to see that B2C companies are like seeing the biggest increase in that AI usage. Probably something related to like B2B companies are more tech enabled from the get-go, in my opinion. Sorry if you're a B2C company and you probably are tech enabled, but maybe it's the use cases are finally getting to that point where they can start to deploy to their audiences. But what are your thoughts on that metric?
Yeah, agreed. It seems like B2C is a little bit more of an industry would be lagging with emerging tech. Of course, that's not universally true, but for the most part, that seems like a rational thing. B2B did move up this year, but it proportionally did not move up as much in terms of usage rate. It was 62% last year, B2B. Now it's 81%, while B2C jumped from 38 to 87%. Actually outstretching B2B, which is pretty interesting.
That is
of course,
interesting.
still both quite high.
So how are people using AI? I mean, I think it's interesting to see that data point. Content creation, we're still not totally bullish on that at all. 47% of people are using it to draft content. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's interesting. Given the way we framed the question, I would say I doubt 50% of content marketers are using it to write a first draft. It is possible that's a comment on outlining, which we didn't specifically note. So that's something we're playing with and considering as a use case, not writing yet for the most part. But of course, some people are actually using it to write and then edit from there. An interesting kind of sidebar off the use case is that the reported success for people that are using AI is actually lower than the people that are not. So maybe this is another sample size thing, but 21% of people actually is probably worth pulling in mildly successful or better. 20.9% of people reported being very successful not using AI. And those that were using AI, only 12% of those actually reported being very successful. So around a 70% gap, depending on how you frame that percentage, in difference in performance. And more people reporting that they were slightly or they're underperforming on the AI side. So it's a mix of values, but generally people only going a human route reported better success. But did you see anything else interesting in that data point, Drew?
I mean, it's just Pareto's principle playing out in AI right now, where it's like some people are going to find success. And I mean, I'm guessing it's how they're using it, how they're deploying it, probably human edited. Hopefully it is. It's interesting. Hopefully we're not jumping back, but that only 19% of people are using AI for editing purposes, which is like where we see the most efficiency gained. What do you think about that?
Yeah, we're using it for editing. That is interesting. I would note, yeah, we don't only use AI. We still human edit things. So it's similar, but yeah, you'd think more people would be doing that. We're using Grammarly for that and finding a lot of value. Yeah, but there's a lot of other things in our survey of like how people are using it. On the higher side, brainstorming is definitely up there, 71%, 68% for ideation and brainstorming, which are similar kind of values. Strategy is interesting. I wonder what the kind of actual use case, but 40% of respondents mentioned using it in some way. I guess we, in a way, do that. We're using it to speed up our keyword research process, so you could consider that strategy, but maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know if you think people were thinking something else there.
No, but I do wish we had AI when I was sending outreach emails so I could draft those up nice and quickly. Throw back to the good old days.
Yes, the good old days of outreach. And on that note, like we also polled people about link building, and it was curious to see the differences of this year and last year. Actually, after I think we didn't do the survey before 2023, but I think there's a general feeling in the market that link building interest was starting to wane a little bit. And then SG, the perception of SG happened. I think there's a lot of talk of like, you just need to be authoritative, and that's a differentiator. And potentially that's wrapped into how people are trying to shift strategy in advance of that possibility, where this year, last year, 14.7% of people said they did not think about link building at all. This year, that number has dropped to 5.5%. So pretty sizable drop in people not thinking about link building whatsoever year over year. And there were some other interesting pieces of that equation. But yeah, any thoughts on that, or what is some other interesting data on link building we saw?
Yeah, I love that we asked about manual link building versus organic, because if anyone listening to the podcast for beyond this episode knows, we are very pro organic link building, and the results are kind of showing that, at least in the in both mildly successful and very successful link building campaigns, organic link building, people reported having way more success than manual link building. So maybe it's that the AI generated templates are not working well for people. And just otherwise, like manual link building is just kind of ancient thing of the past, hopefully.
That data, 50.6% of people reported being mildly successful or better that focused on organic links, and only 35.3% of those who focused on manual links reported the same. So that seems like a trend. There's a clear connection and success there that is worth pointing out. For sure. I mean, we're still doing manual links as always. We do tie in organic link building. We didn't give room for doing both necessarily in the response. So that's worth noting. It might be worth kind of digging into at a future date, but interesting data there for sure.
So Ross, is this poll that we ran didn't include the combination of manual and organic link. It was a separated of both.
Yeah, we didn't give that granularity. I would think people who are doing manual link building would have responded manual if they had. Right. So maybe that's missing as well. But yeah, maybe next year we can dig into that data point further to get more exact.
Yeah, because if they sent one outreach email, they are responsible for the hundreds of links that were built organically.
Partially.
I think one interesting takeaway from this survey was the question on interactivity and how it's more people, almost double. So from 36% of people in 2023 building interactive content up to 62.3%. That's an interesting takeaway that people are building more interactive content, probably also related to the organic link success because those are very linkable. What are your overall thoughts on interactivity?
Yeah, it could be a reaction to the AI thing as well. If we think about like, what is the most difficult to do that I couldn't spin out of ChatGPT? I know you can technically do that with some calculators, but for the most part, it's still a little bit more complex on average. Therefore, it might be a differentiator for my brand. I might want to go that direction. That would make sense to me and potentially be part of it. It's also possible it connects to the budget area. If budgets are slightly nudging up in the year to come, it would make sense that does correlate with doing more interactives as well. So it might be part of all of those things to represent that big of a jump.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. People are spinning up calculators with their AI budgets, then good on them.
Exactly. I know, Drew, you dabble with interactivity or using AI for writing code. Do you see the output for that being useful for things like SEO driven calculators, or how do you think people are using that?
That's a good question. I think what I've seen is it is a little bit difficult to like get to the end product with simply prompt engineering. You need to also understand the code base. And so someone slightly technical would need to plug and play. Like you're not gonna be able to spin up a calculator with AI that works perfectly in your WordPress install or your dev environment. You're gonna need to like still write some code to manipulate that. As far as I'm aware, maybe I'm just not the best prompt engineer in the world.
And there would still be a front end piece missing there too, right? Where it doesn't look it's not going to come out looking nice at all, which is a part of the equation, right?
Which I have seen some of those calculators recently too.
That do not look the best.
Yeah, they don't look good.
Yeah. So maybe it could speed things. Yeah, it makes sense. Hopefully your developers are using AI in some fashion, but so far, if you're not technical, it's probably not going to do much productive for you.
Yeah, it's a proof of concept tool that's super helpful.
Makes sense. Yeah, so I mean, those are some of the core takeaways and interesting data points we saw in the survey. For sure, go check it out. Thanks to Winter for partnering with us to put this out this year. But yeah, Drew, anything else we missed? Any other data points you thought interesting or thoughts you had?
I mean, just the final obvious one was, what's your biggest challenge in content marketing? And most people responded with generating leads. No surprise there, in my opinion. But, still 13% of people are struggling to generate links, ideation, and identifying their target audience. Like you see it like goes down the funnel almost of like product market fit to like, it's interesting to me to see that. Like maybe it's the sample size issue again of like we're getting responses from established businesses, so like they don't have trouble identifying their target audience. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I looking at this again, I had the thought that I wonder if the people that are having trouble generating leads have not started at square one and are actually like accurately defining their target audience, and they really should be responding.
Wow, that's a good point.
To 11 in 11 range.
That's inception.
Possibly not.
And maybe they're not working with Siege yet, and that's their problem.
Yeah. And they have ideation problem, haven't generated links. It's almost like people can't. We'll show this on the video, but yeah, it kind of naturally waterfalls up on some of these things. We plan to keep running the survey. If you have ideas for other questions, please let us know. We'll think about that, but we're excited to keep comparing this data as our industry rapidly evolves here. So thanks for following along. And maybe this time next year, Drew, we'll be able to generate our own podcast versions with AI just for the video.
That's true. Just today it was launched. Yeah, text to video.
So tomorrow, this podcast, who knows?